Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we're going to be doing the usual, going to be going over some reactions to some of the big highlights from last week's matches, and then offering up our predictions for the final set of regular season matches of the Vanguard season. That sounds absolutely wild to say, but if you guys enjoy this one on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We've been seeing some crazy support lately, and we're on the road to 500 subs. On the way there, definitely getting close, so that's very exciting. And if you're on the audio platforms, be sure to drop a follow, drop a 5-star review if you're able. I greatly appreciate it, and the support, like I said, has been awesome. We're approaching that 500 sub mark. That'd be cool to hit maybe by the end of Major 4 or something, heading into Champs at 500 subs would be super cool. So if you guys could help me achieve that goal, that'd be awesome. But without further ado, let's just dive right into it. We're going to start out by talking about some of the highlights from last week. There were some interesting matches, to say the least. Some teams that we definitely did not expect to beat other teams pulled it off, and then a couple teams we did not expect to lose ended up losing, maybe even going 0-2. Going to start with Faze. They beat Ultra in a pretty dominant fashion, and then they laid an egg against LAG, maybe testing out their map pool, but LAG kind of fried them. That's just kind of odd to see, but there's not a whole lot to talk about with Faze. You know, they're maybe testing their map pool. I don't think anybody doubts where they're going to be at come Champs time, come Major 4. We're probably going to see them on Sunday at both of them, probably going to see them in a grand final at both, and maybe they'll complete like the first ever all second place, 4 at the Majors and then 1 at Champs or something. But Faze, they ended up losing a match to LAG, like I said, but that gives me about zero worry, although it is very odd that LAG is now 1-3 in the qualifiers and their only win is against Faze, like the one you'd for sure expect them to lose. But Faze 2-1 now, I'm not worried about them at all. Still think we'll find them around on Sunday in the top 4, and we'll probably find them around on Sunday in the top 4 at Champs. So no worries with Faze there. However, one of the teams they beat Ultra, kind of some worries there maybe. So far in this stage, they beat LAG in a close 3-2 and then lost to Ravens 3-1, and now they lose to Faze 3-0. So they're sitting at 1-2. Got a couple matches this week. I believe they do play OpTic. So yeah, they play OpTic and Breach. Obviously, OpTic not playing great right now, but a tough team to beat regardless. And then Breach, very hot right now, a very hot team. So Ultra are staring down the barrel of a potential 0-2 week, playing 2 good teams. And could easily be 1-4 in these qualifiers in the losers bracket, and they're certainly not guaranteed a spot at Champs. They're currently sitting in the top 8, but they're not like comfortably in it. Like if there were a couple teams to make a run at the Major, Ultra could potentially find themselves out of Champs, which would be wild because we definitely see them as a team that deserves to be there and a team that has the potential to pull off some upsets and maybe find their way into the top 4. I still think that they're going to make it, even if they go 0-2. I still think they likely make it because I don't see 2 of the teams from the bottom 4. I guess really it's the bottom 3 now with Paris eliminated. I don't see 2 of Minnesota, Florida, and New York all making super deep runs to pass up Ultra. Maybe New York, but it's harder for me to see that out of Florida and Minnesota. So I think Ultra are safe, but they're definitely not like a guaranteed safe team. Like they're now in danger of going 1-2 with a chance to lose 2 matches. But I think 1 win this week would really help them out a lot, especially because going 2-3, you know, always does give you a chance to potentially make it into the winners brackets, because some of those teams do end up making it based on like map count and tiebreakers and stuff. A couple other teams, Ravens go 2-0 over Minnesota and Florida. I had said last week in the predictions, I believe I predicted them to go 1-1. I think I had them losing to Minnesota, but I said these are 2 very winnable matches for London. 2 teams that, you know, Minnesota and Florida are maybe middle of the pack right now. Like they're beatable teams. So it'd be big for London to get these 2 wins. And they were also basically a team that we pretty much knew was locked in. They were at 160 points going into the week, but getting 2 wins and getting up to 180 and almost positioning themselves, they're 5 points off of 3rd place with the Surge going 0-2 this week. So London, big week, basically solidified themselves at Champs. Once again, not actually clinched. The only 2 teams that are clinched are Faze and OpTic, but London at 180 really positioning themselves for basically they need a massive collapse and a lot of things to go against them for them to not qualify. So that was a big 2-0 week. That also puts them at 3-0 for the stage, I believe. Which obviously secures them a winners bracket spot. So big for London. They're making moves and they're looking a lot better. So that's good to see. On the other hand of that, though, the teams that they beat, Minnesota and Florida, really cost themselves a lot. This is just a bad week for those 2 because when we do look at the standings, they're sitting tied for 9th right now with 120. And since each other lost, a win could have jumped one over the other and given themselves the upper hand. and put one of them at 130 with a win. And at 130, you're only 5 points behind LAG at 135, and even only 10 points behind Thieves at 140. So that would have really positioned one of them to have the upper hand over the other down in the bottom 4 and gotten them that much closer and a winnable match, because Boston, obviously, they do look very, very, very good right now. But you still think for a team like Minnesota, especially, that we've seen look very good recently, you'd think they'd be able to take out a Boston team. They're not an unbeatable team, even though they are hot. But or excuse me, I'm saying Boston Ravens. The Ravens do look very good, but they're definitely not like an unbeatable team. As we know, this hot streak hasn't been too long for them. They were really struggling before this. So for a team like Florida and Minnesota to not be able to pull off a win versus London, who is also a beatable team, this is kind of toss-up matches. So for them not to win it and position themselves a little better really sucks for them. Now the team I started talking about prematurely, the Breach, they had a great week. They take down the Surge in a kind of an upset match, because we were thinking maybe Surge are vying for that top spot before they laid an egg this week. And then LAG, a team that they should beat, to go 2-0. They look good right now. I mean, man, do they look good. They're 3-1 with that random dud match to the Thieves that they got smoked in. And other than that, they've beaten Surge and OpTic. LAG, a team they should beat, but they beat Surge and OpTic, arguably 2 of the top 3 teams in the game. They look very good right now. Vivid has improved this team. It seems like Nero is playing like a flat-out superstar these past few matches. And some people don't like to admit when they're wrong, but when somebody proves me wrong, I love that. I love when somebody proves me wrong and says, you know what, obviously I don't think Nero heard me talking about it or anything, but I was kind of saying I don't know, I feel like maybe Nero or TJ should have been the one dropped. I kind of settled on Nero. I like Cap's potential, and I like the slaying upside of a Cap Vivid duo, and Nero is saying, you know what, that was a stupid take out of you, Ryan. I'm shutting you up right now, because man, he has been unbelievable these last couple weeks. He is looking like one of the best players in the game over these last couple weeks. Obviously not really ready to call him one of the best players in this title, because he was rather inconsistent before this good little run he's had here, but right now, over these past couple weeks, he has been one of the best in that time period. He is frying. He's really helped them improve their control game. He looks very good in that game mode, and overall just looks great. He's proven me wrong, kind of like when I was talking about negatively on Bance last year and he goes out and wins an event. I'm like, you know what? I'll never talk negatively about Bance again. I'm not ready to say that with Nero, because he hasn't gone out and won an event or anything. But, man, he's definitely bought some time for me to ever criticize him, because he has looked great. And like I said, I love when people prove me wrong. When I was saying, maybe Nero should have been the one dropped, and he immediately came out and proved that I was wrong, because he has been frying. So I'm happy to say I was wrong about that, because the kid is realizing his potential, and there's nothing better to see than a young, talented player realizing his potential. So shout out to Nero, shout out to Boston. They look very good, and could make this whole Major 4 and Champs run down the end of the stretch look very interesting as they start to hit form, and maybe some other teams start to hit form. But Boston looking really good. On the other end of that, though, Surge. What happened? I last week called them a team that's potentially fighting for that best team in the game spot with the likes of an OpTic and a Faze. With the recent OpTic struggles and them kind of getting used to Illy again, I was kind of giving that title to maybe Faze or Surge to fight for it. I call them potentially the best team in the game. Then they go 0-2 against NYSL and Breach. Now, this is different. This is a different 0-2 than going 0-2 against Paris and LAG or something. If they were to do that, it'd be wow, this is really ugly. But I guess at the least, if you want to justify it a little bit, at least they lost to NYSL and Breach, arguably the 2 hottest teams in the game right now. The Breach look very, very good, like I said, and NYSL is scorching hot. They needed to go either 4-1 or 5-0 and then win the event or finish right at the top, and they are currently 4-0. So they're obviously a really hot team, but Surge, we were expecting them to be one of the best teams in the game coming off that win. We were saying they have a chance to be that #1 team for the time being, and then they go 0-2 this week. Like I said, it's not crazy to think about, because this is Vanguard. First of all, it's so random, but also they were playing 2 pretty good teams. But man, Surge, disappointed to see them go 0-2, because we really thought they come out, they beat 2 good teams this week, and they could solidify themselves as one of those dominant forces to be reckoned with down the stretch here. And now teams maybe aren't fearing them as much. So kind of tough scenes for the Surge. NYSL 2-0 against OpTic and Surge. Like I said, coming into this week, we thought for sure these are 2 of our top 3 teams, OpTic and Surge, and NYSL go 2-0 against them. They are hitting form. They're 4-0. They look fantastic. Believe, who do they have a match with this week? They end up playing Thieves, so a very winnable match. They could end up going 5-0. They look fantastic. But it'll really be a shame if they don't end up making it to champs. They're definitely not guaranteed by any means. They're sitting in like, what, 11th right now. It'll really be a shame if they don't make champs, though. But after starting 4-0, they only have themselves to blame if they don't. They did what they needed to do. They got their 4 wins. Be good for them to get their 5. But if they end up just like flopping out at the major and not making it, well, it sucks because they've looked so good and they probably, they are for sure a top 8 team at this point. So they should be at champs. Like if we were to just take the top 8 teams currently right now, they would be one of them for sure. But they only have themselves to blame if they go 4-1 or 5-0 again, or not again. But if they go 4-0, or 4-1 or 5-0, geez, I'm struggling here. And they don't end up making it, they only have themselves to blame because that means they probably bottomed out at another major and just didn't perform, and that would make it 4-for-4 on majors of them just bottoming out and not performing. So they really only have themselves to blame at that point, but really hope they're able to make the run because right now they definitely look like a team that is a potential top 4 team based on the recent form we've seen them in. So it'd be really nice to see them potentially make it, but they still do have to finish this run. I feel like people are kind of overacting a little bit and being like, New York is like so good, they have a chance to win champs. Well, they still have to close out at the LAN and get there, although it is their homeland and it is Crim, and I do feel, Crim seems to always tend to get it done, especially on LAN. So I have a feeling they're going to make that run, but still definitely not out of the woods yet, because if you go and look at the standings right now, they're sitting at 110 points, and like we said, that cutoff right now for 8 is 135. So they still have some work to do, still got to get that win to get to 120 this week, and then, make a run at the major to add some points onto there and potentially make it. But going to be tough scenes if NYSL does sneak in, because I can't imagine they would get much higher than like 7, 8 for champs. I feel like it'd probably be pretty hard for them to get to 5 or 6. Almost impossible for them to get to 4, so you'd expect them to probably be like a 7 or an 8 if they do make it, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. So one of those top 3 teams, Ravens could make the jump, but if like it's Surge, Faze, OpTic in whatever order at the top, man, it's gonna be tough if New York ends up getting that 7 or 8, because they're probably a lot better team than you'd expect to play from those bottom seeds. But big week from New York, and huge for them to beat 2 of our top 3 teams coming into this week. Last team I wanted to talk about here, OpTic. They go 1-1, 1-1 in the week. They beat Paris, obviously, so not anything crazy there that's expected. They beat them 3-1. And then they do lose 3-1 to New York. Also not crazy unexpected to me. I did end up picking OpTic in a 3-2 because I really went for the toss-up, and I explained kind of my theory behind that a little bit last week, where I just basically pick OpTic and Faze almost in every match unless I have like a weird feeling about it, just because they are so much better in terms of series win-loss record than every other team, so it's almost hard not to pick them because they do win so many more series in comparison to the other teams in the league, specifically this year. But they lose to NYSL. They look overall a little bit sloppy, a little bit out of sync, which kind of is expected because they are just working Illy back into the lineup for like the first time. But it still is a little concerning because you never want to see a team limp into champs, and they definitely have a potential. I think they still have a possibility if they probably like 3-0 or something to end up making it as like a 7 or 8 seed for the major. But right now they're sitting in losers at 1-3, so they need a little bit of help, but they do have a lot of map wins, so that should help them out to potentially make it into winners. And they have a date with who was it, Ultra this week, so not the easiest match in the world. Ultra could definitely pull off an upset on them, but just a little sloppy. But once again, something that you kind of expect to see as Illy gets worked in. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I think it'll be fine, OpTic fans, if you're listening. I think it'll be fine. I think it's maybe a little concerning because you never want to see your team limping to champs, like I said, but I do think they'll be fine with time, and we'll see them, solidify themselves again as one of those top 3 teams, top 4 teams here coming in the major. Especially if they get in the winners bracket, I could see them making a run. And I still see them coming into champs strong as one of those, favorite 3 or 4 teams to take it home. But it's just going to maybe take a little time to work Illy back in. Hopefully it doesn't take too long where they just get like first rounded at the major and kind of limp into champs with a bad performance, bad taste in their mouth. But I think OpTic will be fine. Just going to take a little bit of time. Last little piece of news here before we dive into predictions for next week. Temp kind of tweeted that he may potentially be done for the year. Like he just can't take it with the way things have been going, which I really feel for the guy because he has all year basically been talked about as one of the best players in this game. Maybe not like anything crazy like top 5 because of how poor his team has been performing, but people have been talking about him as one of the top players in the game. He's looked so good this year, and he just can't catch a break because man, his team has really been bad. This tweet from CDL Intel here that I've got up, they're saying Temp could be done for the season. Paris have 2 matches next week, and then Major 4, obviously no champs for them. It's been 100 days since Paris won a regular season match, and this is getting recorded on July 5th, and this tweet's from July 3rd. It's been 100 days since Paris won a regular season match, and they're now 2-20 on the season in series record. So they haven't won a match in 100 days, now over 100 days. They're 2-20 overall, just an absolutely horrendous non-competitive record. They showed little flashes. I'm pretty sure they won a match on LAN at, was it against Ravens maybe? At the Minnesota major. I was in the crowd screaming for Donnie, cheering on Paris. I remember that. I'm pretty sure I was at the LAN, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure they did win a match there, but I think I was there for one of Paris's 2 wins this year, and then I'm assuming their other one had to be an online league match, but they are 2-20. Just feel bad for Temp. He may not play these last 2 matches in the major. Just really sucks to see Temp, going through this, because I can't imagine this is very easy on his mental game, because, man, it's got to be brutal to just go into every series knowing you just stand no chance. You're going to get fried, even though you're frying. Like, I believe in one of those series, you had like a 1.3, 1.4, just mega cooking, and he just still can't win a map. They can't win a series. It's got to be so frustrating. I really feel for the guy. I can't imagine if I was in that situation, my mental game would probably be fried as well. So, sucks for him. I believe, he'll probably be done for the year unless he decides to just play it out and, take one more crack at playing a LAN and see if they can win a match or something. Play spoiler, but I don't think he can get signed. I guess maybe technically they're still going to have like a little bit of a roster move period before champs, before they have like a roster lock. So like maybe he could be picked up, but I don't see a team like picking him up for champs. Even if I guess first of all, I don't know what the rules are in that yet and like how much time they still have to pick somebody up. But the only way I can really see is if somebody's absolutely limping into champs and is just struggling and has a desperation pickup of him. But Temp probably done for the year. Sucks to see for his sake, but hopefully he is able to bounce back and get off of Paris next year so he can, make some noise. Been talking about the standings a lot, so I wanted to quick read those off before predictions, just so you know where we're headed. First of all, the Major 4 standings. You've got Subliners in first, London and Breach tied with 30 in second. I guess they're not really tied because they go map win, so I'll just read off the order here. New York, London, Breach, Thieves, Faze, Florida, Surge, Rocker are in winner's bracket currently. Then down in loser's bracket, we've got Ultra, Guerrillas, OpTic, and Legion. So those are the standings for Major 4 qualifiers. And then overall for the season standings, right now for the teams and champs, we've got Faze 1, OpTic 2, and those are the only 2 teams that are officially clinched. Then at 3, you've got Surge, and 4, you've got Ravens. Those teams are pretty much, I would say, locked in. Unless some absolutely crazy happens, they could drop out technically, but they're pretty much locked in. Breach at 5, also pretty much locked in unless some wild stuff happens. And then where we get to the teams that are really still, in the running to potentially be eliminated, or more likely, I guess, to fall out, is 6 Ultra, 7 Thieves, and 8 Guerrillas. And then tied for 9th at 120, we've got Minnesota and Florida, and then 11th is Subliners, and then 12th, the only team currently eliminated from champs, is the Paris Legion. So there are the standings as we head in. Kind of keep that in mind. Some teams are really playing for their seeding and, for their champs' lives this coming weekend. So let's just dive right into the predictions right away and not wait any longer. First day of matches, we got the typical 3 Friday matches. It looks like we've also got some bounty matches this week, which I know how a lot of the fans feel about that. They're not really a fan, but we do have some of those this week. First match on Friday is Faze Ravens. This is a rather interesting one, maybe more interesting than it would have been a few weeks ago, because obviously we know Faze, pretty dominant team like always, and Ravens, really struggled for the last couple of stages, but overall in this stage, they look very good, so this becomes a much more intriguing matchup because the Ravens are 3-0 and, could potentially be playing for a 1 seed, depending on how things go with Subliners. Ravens probably going to win their final match of the week, in my opinion. So I do think they have 4 wins. And if they're somehow able to take out Faze, that would probably likely put them at 5-0 since they play LAG later in the week, and could potentially lock up a 1 seed for them if, Thieves are able to pull off the upset on Subliner. So kind of a big match, and especially a big match because Ravens not technically qualified for champs. So all the points they can get really stack up and really help them out a lot. However, I do think Faze still wins this one. Technically, they are maybe not locked into winners bracket for this specific major 4, because they are 2-1. So there's a world where they maybe lose both matches, go 2-3, and somehow fall out. I do think Faze is going to be testing Matt Poole, but not enough to lose both series this week. I think they're going to end up winning this one. And I'll go in a 3-1 fashion. I think Ravens can take off a map. Wouldn't be shocked to see Ravens take 2, or maybe a little map pool test from Faze, and they somehow find a way to lose or something. But definitely leaning Faze here. It's hard to pick against them ever. But Ravens right now are a hotter team than maybe we thought coming into this match, so they do have a decent chance, but still going Faze 3-1. Next match, it's basically like a Faze match where I pretty much pick them every time, unless maybe they're playing OpTic because OpTic has their number this year. You basically have to pick against Paris. I mean, they're 2-20. Like I said, haven't won a series in over 100 days. So it's Florida versus Paris. Now, granted, Florida are a team I don't have a lot of confidence in. I think if Donnie doesn't play, this is probably a 3-0 for Florida. I just have an odd feeling, Donnie's going to keep playing and going to really try his hardest out here. So I'm actually going to go 3-2 Florida. I have no idea why. I probably shouldn't pick Paris to win 2 maps because they never do. But if Donnie's playing, I'm going to say Paris is going to find a way to win 2 maps and then get their heart broken again and, lose in a map 5 or something. And then they lose 3-2 to Florida. But if Donnie's not playing, I'm probably going 3-0. But regardless, picking Florida here. Although Paris has potential to really play spoiler this week because they do play Florida and Minnesota. Granted, probably going to lose both, but those are the 2 teams that are sitting at 120 and are both 15 points out of champs right now. So if Paris ever wanted to play spoiler, now is the time they could hold these 2 out of champs with them and say, you're coming with me, you're not going to the big dance or something. But going to Florida 3-2 and kind of a shocker that Paris could win 2 maps. Then we've got Surge Rocker. This is also a big match. Obviously, like I said, everything for Rocker is a big match right now. Not as much for Seattle because they're probably basically locked into champs with 185 points being in 3rd place right now. But big match for them in terms of their Major 4 placing because they're currently, 1-2 now, and they also play Faze this week. So if they end up losing that, that really puts them in a tough position and could potentially put them in losers bracket for this major. And obviously, like I said, big match for Minnesota as they try to qualify. However, I'm going to say we're going to see a bounce back from Surge here, and we're going to see them win in a 3-1 fashion. I think maybe Minnesota take the Search, but these are 2 very good Search teams, so I expect that to be a battle and a fun one to watch. But going to go Surge 3-1. I think we see a bounce back. Hard to believe they could find a way to lose 3 matches in a row coming off that win in the major, but we saw LAG do it and really struggle following a major win, so maybe Surge can do it, but I have faith in them to bounce back. I still think they're probably a top 3 team. Maybe just had a struggle weekend. They did play 2 pretty good and pretty hot teams last week. Moving into Saturday, we've got another Paris match in the first one. It is a bounty match, so maybe a little bit extra for them to play for. However, I don't think it's going to matter much. I'm going to go Rocker in a 3-0 fashion because I always say it every week, boys and girls. We got to pick some 3-0s because they always seem to happen and probably always seem to happen more than you would think. It always seems like there's more 3-0s than you'd expect. So I'm going to go with Minnesota here because Paris seemed like the easy candidate to pick a 3-0 against. Then we've got kind of a banger matchup in my opinion. Maybe some of you guys don't think this is as good, but to me this has a Game 5 written all over it. It's Breach Ultra. If you're a Breach fan, you're listening, I said this last week, but if you are a Breach fan, you should be begging right now for me to pick against them because whatever I pick Boston to do, they do the opposite. It's like a known fact. Boston and Florida are the 2 teams. Whatever I pick, if you're a Boston or a Florida fan, every time I pick one of their matches, you better beg that I pick against them because whatever I do, they do the opposite. So if I pick them to win, they're going to lose. And if I pick them to lose, they're going to win because whatever reason, Boston and Florida just do that to me. But this is a Boston-Toronto matchup. You guys know I always seem to just have faith in Toronto. I just don't lose faith in them for whatever reason because I like how fundamentally sound they are, and I really like the players in this team. However, they're not looking great right now, and Boston is looking like one of the hottest teams. I really, really, really want to pick Ultra in this, especially because I'm going map 5. You guys know how I feel about Ultra and Search and Destroy. I think they're one of the best teams always, and always a hard out, but I'm going to go Boston 3-2 here. I sound reluctant because every time I pick Boston, they lose, so I just don't have that much confidence in them, but they do look to be one of the hottest teams in the game. I just gassed up Nero for proving me wrong, so I think I got to go with them, but I do think this has a potential Game 5 written all over it because, like I said, Ultra are probably fighting for their life and really know they need this match and this win because, first of all, they're getting closer and closer to, getting on that edge of being uncomfortable for champs, especially if they start in losers bracket at the major, and with them playing OpTic later in the week, that's a very tough match. And a very losable one, probably one that they're the underdog in and most likely to lose. So against a hot Boston team. They're going to have to try to find a way to get to 2-2 to really give themselves a good chance to qualify. Otherwise, if they're 1-3 playing OpTic later, that might be basically a qualifying match for those two teams. But going Boston 3-2 here, but I think this has banger potential in that series. Then the marquee match of the day, kind of wild at the last match. Surge Faze seems like more of a marquee match to me, but Mountain Dew marquee match of the day is Thieves Mutineers. This is kind of another weird one because if you look at it here, we've got Thieves who are 2-1 on the stage, Mutineers who are 1-2, and obviously Thieves towards the bottom in 7th place in our overall standings, and Mutineers right below them trying to claw their way in. So this is a pivotal match in terms of champs qualifications. Oh boy, like I said, if I pick against Florida, they always find a way to win, and I think I'm going to pick against them again. So Florida fans, get hyped because I just picked against them again. I'm going to go Thieves in a 3-1. Florida doesn't seem to go map 5 much. I don't hate the construction of the new Florida team, but I also don't have a ton of faith in them. And Thieves have looked overall pretty good in this stage. Once again, these are two teams that are very hard to predict because they are very up and down squads that are almost unpredictable. Some days they look like they're a top 4 team, and then other days they look like they don't belong at champs. So two very unpredictable teams, but two teams I also don't have much faith in their search. I have more faith in Florida's search than I did before just because they have Major Maniac, and that guy is so icy that I'll always give him a chance to win a search and destroy no matter how bad his teammates perform. But this is just a weird matchup for me. But I'm going Thieves just because I feel like I trust their respawn game a little more. And for that reason, I go 3-1 Thieves. Then we've got a banger match to end the day, which probably should be the marquee match. It's also a bounty match, though. So maybe that's the reason they didn't make it the marquee match. But we got Faze Surge. You know, my golden rule of predictions is basically to always pick with Faze because they win so much of a majority of their matches that to pick against them is just going way against the odds for really no reason because they're pretty much a lock or a very decent chance to win any of their matches unless it's against OpTic this year. But Surge also kind of have Faze's number. If they don't beat them this year and even really the past couple years, even when they sucked in Cold War, they beat them at the end of the year and stuff. And even when they haven't beat them this year, like the major I was at, that went to a Game 5 round 11 in winner's bracket in that series that Mac got sick there at Major 2. So Surge, even if they don't, beat Faze, they seem to always play them tight. They beat them in a grand final. However, I don't know. I want to pick against Faze for once here. I might do it. I do think Faze are going to beat Royal Ravens to go to 3-1, so that locks them into the winner's bracket. I was about to say, however, I want to pick Faze, but the more I stare at this matchup, I want to go a little bold and pick Surge. Let's say Surge in a 3-2. They seem to have Faze's number, and I expect this to be a very close match. Am I going to be surprised if Faze wins? No, I'm never surprised if Faze wins. I could see Faze at 0-4 in a stage, and I wouldn't be surprised if they'd go out and win that last match and make a run at the tournament or something. Never can count Faze out. I'm going Surge in a 3-2 here, but kind of a wild pick just off a gut feeling because Faze probably are the smarter team to pick with how consistent they are, but I'm going to go Surge in a 3-2 just for a little fun here. Then going into the final day of matches, the final day of regular season matches for this entire season. That's wild to think about. Only 4 majors this year compared to the 5 majors, if you're wondering why I'm saying that and didn't know about that little format change. That's why. Only 4 majors this year in the CDL. And on this final day of matches, we've got Guerrillas versus Ravens, a pivotal game for Guerrillas because they are 1-3. Who knows? They could be eliminated from winners bracket contention by this time, depending on how the other games go the first 2 days. But could potentially be playing for their winners bracket life at 2-3 if they win this one, which for them could be crucial. Ravens already have it locked up because they have 3 wins coming into this week. But a winners bracket spot for LAG could be crucial because they're just barely hanging on to that final spot right now by 15 points. And if they're able to win this match, that puts them at 145 and then also gives them that, little cushion of being in the winner's bracket rather than just being a one and done in loser's bracket. Gives them a little cushion, maybe allows them to win a couple more matches and hold on to their seeding. But this is an absolutely pivotal match for Guerrillas. I feel like if they lose this match, I don't think they're going to make it to champs because that would knock them down with 135 into losers round 1 and, give them the potential to just be first rounded and not gain anything and keep them at 135, which I don't think will be enough to make it to champs unless all those other teams like Florida, Minnesota, and NYSL just lay an egg at the tournament. That's the only way that's possible for LAG to still qualify with 2 losses. So absolutely pivotal match for them here. I think Ravens are 3-1 and want a better seed coming into this. I actually think this is going to be closer than maybe a lot of people think. I don't think Ravens, I'm ready to call them back into their stage 1 form because I want to see a little bit more out of them, more than just 3 matches. I think this is going to go map 5. And I like London in a 3-2, but I really think LAG has a little more upset potential here than people might think. Second match of the day is OpTic Ultra, kind of a classic. In Cold War, Ultra really had OpTic's number. OpTic not struggling as much with many teams this year as, for a while there, they look like the best team in the game. Probably a must-win here for Ultra. They're likely 1-3 coming into this one with a loss to Boston. Even if they're not, they're 2-2. You don't want to lose to go to 2-3 because that puts you in danger of obviously being in a loser's bracket, like I said. I do think they're going to lose here. Kind of like that golden rule, don't pick against Faze or OpTic. I know I picked against Faze once this week, but that's because they're playing another potential other top 3 team. Went with a gut feeling. I do think Ultra can pull off this upset here, kind of like I said with NYSL last week. For me, it's hard to pick against OpTic because of what their win-loss record looks like. They do win so many more matches than they lose, and they're desperate for a win here because they could, I guess, be eliminated from winner's bracket contention, based on the way it shakes out, just like LAG in the match before. But if they're at all alive, I expect them to go hard for the day and potentially try to go for a 3-0 if they need it for map count and stuff, because I think a 3-0 in map count on this match would put them at 10-10, even though they're 2-3 in terms of series count. But I'm picking OpTic to win this one 3-1. I certainly can see a world where Toronto can upset because, like I said, Toronto's so strong in Search and Destroy. I could see them taking that map too and then, rolling out. But I think OpTic's a little too strong in control. I think they'll have a very tough week of practice. I think they're going to kind of try to lock in, because they see that, they're not just going to be able to win off talent. Like, teams are going to beat them in Vanguard. With how mixy it can be and how random teams are going to beat them, they're not just going to be able to out-talent everyone, so they're going to have to get in the lab this week. I think they're going to do that. I can see a world where Toronto's able to take, 2 searches and steal one of the respawns or something. That's like the way I see them winning this series if they do, but I think OpTic's just going to be too strong in control and then find a way to take either 2 of the hard points or maybe a map 5 if it goes there. But the way I see this series shaking out is Ultra either winning the map 1 or the map 2 and OpTic winning the other 3. To make it a 3-1. Then the final match of the week, another marquee match here. Subliners, Thieves, another absolutely crucial one. Like I said, with Thieves on the year sitting at 140 points, barely hanging on to the 7th spot, and then Subliners at 110. This could be a big swing if Subliners go to 120 and keep the Thieves at 140. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think the Subliners are going to win. I think they're going to take out Thieves, improve to 5-0, be the 1 seed. Most likely, unless Ravens, go 5-0 and beat them overall with the tiebreakers. That's like the only way they couldn't be 1 seed at 5-0. But I think the Subliners are going to improve to 5-0, take them out, get to 120, and then, probably going to be the 1 seed, I guess maybe the 2 seed, and have their best chance they've had to make a run at a tournament as one of the highest overall seeds and make their run to champs. And at that point, if they don't make it, it's their fault. But I'm going Subliners in a 3-1 fashion over the Thieves. I feel like Subliners are just red hot right now, and Thieves, they look pretty good, but they're just so inconsistent that against one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the league right now in Subliners, it's hard to pick against them for a team like Thieves that we just never know what Thieves we're going to get on the day. So that's the final set of predictions for the regular season of the Vanguard season. That sounds absolutely wild to say. I want to thank you guys all for, the journey this year. We're definitely not done. This sounds like I'm wrapping up for a break. We're definitely not done. We've obviously got predictions to do for the major and some, player tier rankings, maybe going into champs, and then the champs predictions and all the talks about champs. And then we get into the offseason of Roster Mania and kind of more random COD history type podcasts and Roster Mania rumor mill kind of stuff. So we've got plenty more to go on the year. This is definitely not a wrap up, but want to thank you guys for all the support through these regular season matches. Seems wild that here we are with the end of them, but the best time of year for the Call of Duty season is coming up. We've got a major, and then we've got champs shortly after, so excited for that. That's going to do it for this one, though. Like I said, probably be on the lookout for some reactions to these matches, and then a predictions episode for the major, and then maybe we'll finally throw out that player tier list before the major. Maybe we'll do a before the major and then how it looks after the major and see how drastically it could change depending on maybe some surprise performances or something. Maybe we'll do an all of the players tier list for the players, currently playing, because then we can have those bottom 4 teams still in there. And then following the major, we'll do hey, here are the teams that qualified for champs. Here's a player tier list heading to champs or something. something that like that where it's still fresh in our mind from the major. So maybe be on the lookout for that. Don't know if the one before the major will for sure come, but we'll definitely be doing one after the major. So be on the lookout for that. And then, like I said, regular scheduled content next week with reactions and then predictions for that major 4. So super excited. I hope you guys enjoyed the matches this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did and you're on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I know I've said it a few times the last few weeks, but we're almost at 500 subs. I'd really appreciate it if we could hit that. That's kind of like the biggest milestone yet, obviously. I'd be very grateful if you guys could help me achieve that and help this channel achieve that. And then if you're on the audio platforms, be sure to leave a review if you're able. Leave a 5-star review, drop a like on there, drop a follow. I greatly appreciate all the support. I know I say it all the time, but I really do mean it. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.